Hey, welcome. Today we are going to break down a term that you hear constantly, cyber risk. It always sounds like this big, scary, technical thing. But what does it actually mean in our day-to-day lives? Well, let's start with a few simple things you've probably done just this week. So, think about it. Have you hopped on a public Wi-Fi network recently? At a coffee shop, maybe the airport? Super convenient, right? But it's also our first stop on this little tour of everyday actions that have, well, a hidden side to them. And what about your passwords? Come on, let's be real for a second. Are you using the same one or maybe a tiny variation of it for a bunch of different accounts? It just makes life easier, sure, but it's also like leaving a trail of digital breadcrumbs for someone to follow. And finally, you know that little notification that pops up begging you to update your phone or your computer? How many times have you just tapped Remind Me Later? It feels like no big deal, right? Just a minor annoyance. Okay, so you've got the public Wi-Fi, the reused password, the ignored update. Each of these things carries this hidden possibility that something could go wrong. But what is that possibility? What's the actual real risk we're talking about? All right, let's do this. Let's move away from that vague, anxious feeling and get a real solid understanding. What is cyber risk, like officially? So, according to France's top cybersecurity agency, cyber risk is the possibility that a threat, let's say a hacker, exploits a vulnerability, like that software update you've been putting off, to harm an asset, which could be your data, your device, anything valuable. But here's the absolute key part. Risk isn't just about the bad thing that could happen, it's the likelihood of it happening, combined with the consequences if it does. And this is really the core idea you need to grasp. Cyber risk is all a game of probability. It is not a guarantee that you're going to get hacked on public Wi-Fi. It's just that the possibility is there. So good security isn't about making that possibility zero. It's about lowering the odds as much as you can. And you can actually see this thinking evolve in the real world. Take the OWASP Top 10. It's a super famous list in the security world. Before 2010, it was basically just a list of the nastiest technical bugs out there. But after 2010, they made a huge shift. They started ranking the biggest risks. They figured out that not all bugs are equally dangerous. What really matters is which ones are most likely to be used against you and cause the most damage. Okay, so if risk is just a constant probability, something that's always going to be a part of our digital world, what are we supposed to do about it? Well, the answer isn't to just give up. It's about learning how to manage what is essentially inevitable. Let's just ask the big question head on. Can you ever be 100% completely, totally safe online? Is it possible for a company to get rid of every single cyber risk they face? And the answer is a very straightforward no. It's pretty much impossible to eliminate all cyber risk. It just can't be done. So the goal has to change. You have to stop chasing this myth of perfect security and instead focus on a continuous, proactive process of risk management. And believe me, this isn't just some abstract idea. Big organizations have entire playbooks for this. You've got the ISO standard that's used all over the world, the NIST framework for the US government, EBOS in France. These are all systematic roadmaps to help identify, assess, and deal with risks. All of this builds up to an even more advanced idea, cyber resilience. And NIST, the US National Institute of Standards and Technology, has a brilliant definition for it. It's not just about building walls to keep people out. It's about being able to anticipate attacks, resist them, recover from them fast, and then adapt so you're stronger next time. It's basically the digital version of being able to take a punch, shake it off, and get right back in the fight. So how do you actually build that kind of resilience? What are the tools that go into the toolbox? Well, in this section, we're going to look at the 4 fundamental layers of defense that every organization uses to protect itself. So this whole defense strategy is built in 4 layers. First up, you have preventive measures. These are your walls, your locks, the things that stop attacks before they even start. If something gets through, layer 2 is detection. That's your alarm system going off. Once the alarm rings, you move to reactive measures, which is your emergency response team trying to limit the damage. And finally, you have investigation. That's the detective work to figure out exactly how it happened so you can make sure it never happens again. So what do these tools actually look like? Well, for preventative, you're talking about firewalls, encryption, and yeah, those software updates. For detection, that's your antivirus software or fancy intrusion detection systems. Reactive steps are all about damage control, like yanking a hacked computer off the network or restoring everything from a backup. And investigation? That's deep dive digital forensics to learn from the attack. So we've got the frameworks, we've got the toolkits, we've got all these layers of defense. So why are we still hearing about massive data breaches all the time? Let's get to the real heart of the problem here, the single biggest challenge in all of cybersecurity. The fundamental truth of all security is that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. It doesn't matter if you have the best, most expensive security systems in the world. An attacker's job is just to find that one, single vulnerability. And that, of course, brings us to the most critical question of all. With all this technology, with all of these processes, where does the chain usually break?
Well, the most famous answer is us, the humans. But what's so important about this research, which goes all the way back to 1999, is that it's not about blaming people. It's not that users are the enemy. It's that security is often just way too confusing or difficult to use, and people just don't have the training to make the right call. It's a design problem and an education problem.
And the second major weak link, according to the legendary expert Bruce Schneier, is complexity itself. Think about it. The more complex a system gets, with more code, more features, more things talking to each other, the more places there are for bugs and vulnerabilities to hide. Simple is almost always safer. So we've got the human factor, and we have technical complexity creating these weak links. For our last section, let's just zoom out and look at the bigger forces that make cybersecurity a challenge that's, well, never going to go away. Just look at this number from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. The demand for cybersecurity professionals is expected to grow by 32% over the next decade. That isn't just growth, that's an explosion. And it points to a massive global shortage of skilled people on the front lines of this fight. And that brings us right back to where we started. We've talked about threats and risks and defenses. But in the end, security is a shared responsibility. It's a chain that we are all a part of. So the question I want to leave you with is this. In that chain of security, which link are you? Are you making it stronger, or are you a potential weak spot? Thanks for tuning in.